In this lesson, we are going to be talking about metric conversions, and I'm going to be teaching you a method of how we can convert between the metric units. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to convert between the different metric units there are. So let's talk a little bit about the historic background of metric units. In the early days, early scientists used to use their own local system of units. This created a lot of confusion because when scientists shared information, they had to convert between the system they were using and the one that they were given before they could get to any work. This caused a lot of time lost. So because of this, the metric system was created, and it was implemented in many countries. So you might be thinking, what is the metric system? Well, it's basically this universal standardized form of measurements. It's used by scientists all around the world, and many countries have actually adopted this as their form of measurement. With England, all of their speed limit signs are in kilometers per hour or some form of kilometers per time system, whereas ours are in miles per hour. And the United States is one of a few countries that doesn't use the metric system. It's not that we haven't thought about converting or brought the idea up, but it's thought that if we convert to the metric system, it's going to be long, nasty, and it's not worth the time. So the official name of the metric system is called the Système International de Unité, or for short, we just call it the SI system, because who wants to say Système International de Unité every single time they talk about the metric system? So I just wanted to take a minute for you to think about, which units do you use in your daily life? For length, typically we use units like feet, yards, or inches. And with the metric system, it's meters and centimeters typically. The units that we generally use for mass is pounds and ounces. The metric system uses grams and kilograms. For volume, we generally use units like gallons, cups, and ounces. There's many more, but these are the three that we typically think of. The metric system uses liters and milliliters. Temperature, we think of temperature in Fahrenheit. Some of you even might think of temperature in Celsius. If you do, you're already thinking in the metric system, because temperature for the metric system is in Celsius. For time, we generally think about it in minutes or hours. The metric system generally uses seconds for this. So just taking a look at all of the units we use daily, think about it if you use these units and then all of a sudden you're in Europe and you're like, oh, it's 80 degrees out here. And to you, you're speaking in Fahrenheit. But to the natives of the country, they think you're speaking in Celsius. So with the metric system, it allows us to understand each other's work. We're able to duplicate and test others' experiments and get either the same results or different results depending upon the experiment and how it was supposed to go. The metric system is also based on a power of 10 system. So it's like thinking of log. Log is majority of the time log is a base 10 unit. So is the metric system. And here are all the SI units. These are the basic ones that I was talking about. Length, we'll use meter. Mass, we'll use grams. Volume, we'll use liters. Temperature, we'll use Celsius. And for time, we're going to use seconds. And then we've got the prefixes. So what I mean by these is when you're talking about centimeters, you're using the centi prefix and then just adding the base unit meters. So that is what we're going to be learning how to convert between the different prefixes in the metric system. So the first prefix we got there is kilo. It is symboled with a lowercase k, and this is 1,000. You've got hecto with a lowercase h, deca with a da, and then you have your base units, your liter, your meter, your gram, and so on. And then you've got deci, which is labeled with a lowercase d, centi, lowercase c, and milli, we've got a lowercase m. So the reason that I am giving you the shorthands of each of these is because generally when we do units, we don't spell out centimeter. We just write cm. So this way then you'll know, oh, C, we're talking about centi, and M, oh, I know that's a meter, so we're in the unit centimeter. So now there's a little acronym that we can use to go along with this that will help you remember the order of these prefixes. It's King Henry dies unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. King stands for kilo, Henry hecto, dies deca, unexpectedly is the base unit, drinking deci, chocolate centi, and milk is milli. So I give you this acronym because I know for me personally, having an acronym helps me remember things, and this is something that will hopefully help you remember the order. So now let's talk about the timeline. So this is the device I'm going to be giving you to help you convert between the different metric units. What we're going to do is we're just going to draw a timeline. So draw a straight line across, and we're going to put 7 ticks on this line. So this is the base, and as we go through the slides, we're going to be adding the prefixes and the different units for each of the general metric units we'll see and need to convert between. So now let's add the prefixes to our timeline. I have to redraw it here. Alright, so our prefixes, remember the acronym. King Henry dies unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. Because if you don't put anything else on this, at least you have the prefixes and you know where deca is or where milli is on this timeline. Now let's go through and add the units for meters. Alright, so King Henry dies unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. So what we did was we took our prefix and put it together with our unit meters to get like kilometers, hectometers, decameters, centimeters, decimeters, all of those. So now if I were to give you a conversion between decameters and decimeters, well, you would know that decameters is on the left of the base unit and decimeters is on the right of the base unit. Now let's do the same thing but for liters. Alright, so We've got kiloliters, hectoliters, deciliters, liter, deciliter, centiliter, and milliliter. And you don't have to put these on your timeline if you think that you don't need them. But they're there for your use and for you to convert easier if you think just looking at the prefixes isn't going to help you. All right, now let's do grams. Kilogram, hectogram, decagram, gram, decigram, centigram, milligram. There you go. So now how do we use this timeline? Well, we're going to look at the problem that we are given and identify the units that we start with. And we're going to put our finger on that unit on the timeline. So let's say we started with hectogram. It said that we're converting between hectogram and decagram. So you're going to put your finger right there on the hectogram. And then you're going to move to the new unit. So the one that the problem wants you to go to. Making sure as you're moving to count your jumps and remember which direction you're going in. So if we are going from hectogram to decagram, we are going to jump to DA because deca is DA and D is deci. So I noticed that I went one jump to the right. So now we're going to move the decimal in our original number the same number of spaces and in the same direction that we did when we moved through the timeline. So let's say my number was 220 hectograms, and remember we went to decagrams. So I need to move my decimal, which if you don't see a decimal there, that means it's at the very end. So I'm going to move my decimal one jump to the right. So 1. And now I'm going to put a 0 in as a placeholder. So now I have 2,200 decagrams.